Hello and welcome back to Sky City Studios. Today I'm gonna show you the basics to start Roblox Studio. So first things first, you have to download Roblox Studio. I have a video to that already, but if you've downloaded Roblox before, it should be on your computer already. So first, we're going to open up Roblox Studio. It should take decently quick. Be decently quick, my bad. Alright. So I don't quite remember if it will open up to My Games or New. But what you're going to do is, once Roblox Studio is open, you're going to look over to the left and you're going to look for New. With the plus sign. You can look through any of these pre-made templates, but right now we're just gonna open up a base plate. Wait for that to load. Alright, so now when we have the brand new base plate open, we're gonna need two things. We're gonna need the Explorer, and then we're gonna need the properties. So since I already have those open, I don't need to do anything. But if you don't have the Explorer or properties open, what you're gonna do is you're gonna go up here, about to the top middle. There's gonna be a button, View. You're gonna click that, and these are right here. These are all things that you're gonna be able to use all things that you're gonna view. So these two right here, Explorer and Properties, if you watch right here, when I click it, it hides it. But if they're deselected and they don't have this outline around them, make sure to select them to open them. And then once we have those open, alright. So now, I'm going to quickly explain a couple things in the Explorer. This is the workspace. This is where everything you see, like the base plate, this will render in your game if it's in the workspace. So if we insert a part, this part is in workspace. It'll be able to be viewable from anywhere. Workspace also holds terrain and the camera. Alright, now the players. That is a special service that holds the players when they join into the game, where they have specific data for the player, like their user ID or their username. And then core GUI, you won't have open or core packages. Those will have to be open specifically. Then we have lighting. This is self-explanatory. This is the lighting for the entire world. So you can change the fog, the time. It's the lighting. Mess up some lighting. Plugin GUI service, I don't think that should be open. Then we have replicated first. Replicated first will, if you put something in this, it'll be the first item that is copied or put into your game. Then replicated storage, this is it's storage that's on the server, but the client can actually access it. So if you wanted to check if there was a special value in replicated storage, the client could see that. Roblox plugin GUI service, that's not there. That has to be activated. Server script service. Whoopsie. This is where you'll keep all of your main scripts and module scripts, and it's server script service. So this is where the brains of your entire game is going to be. This is server storage, so this is stuff that, like, if you want a humanoid in there for some reason, that's where you can store it on the server, and no client can actually access server script service or server storage. And then we have starter GUI. Any type of GUI object or anything that's in starter GUI will be cloned and then put into the player's player GUI. And then that'll be shown on their screen if it's a player GUI. Then we have starter pack. So if you had a tool in there, this will clone into the player's backpack, and then they'll be able to use the tool. Then starter player. This has two other folders in it. This is starter character scripts, and this is starter player scripts. So if you put a script in starter character scripts, it's going to clone the script and put it into the character, the little guy that's walking around down here. It'll clone it in. So if you put a script in starter character scripts, it would go to this dummy, and this script would be in the dummy. And then starter player scripts, that'll be something that, let's say this is a player object. Starter player scripts, if there's another script in that, it'll clone it and put it into the player scripts. I don't think I got the name right, but character and player scripts, those will clone the scripts into the character or the player object. Then we have sound service. This is settings for all the sound in your game. There's not a lot that you're going to be doing here, so there's really not a lot of stuff to be touching in here, so I'll just leave it. So then we got chat. This is where when you're in a game and you press slash and you type something, it'll pop up where you see other people chatting in game. That is the chat service. There are some settings down here, but we'll go over those at some point. Then we have localization service. This gets their localization. It's like I'm in the USA, it would register that, but then also what it mainly does is it gets your language. So EN, that is English. Wow, I cannot speak. But anyways, it's English. That's what our language is. And then there's our area, the US, United States. And then this is the system local ID. So that's the system that Roblox Studio is running on. Then we have test service. I don't ever use it. I've never used it. So I'm not really familiar with it. So that's something I really can't help with. But alright. Now we're going to talk about the properties on items. So we inserted this part earlier when we were explaining about workspace. This part is in workspace, so you'll be able to see it. But if it's in like replicated storage or server script service, server storage, you can't see it. If it's in any of those, you aren't going to be able to see it. It's only going to be able to be viewable in the workspace. So now, since we inserted this part, you can also insert a part by pressing the plus button right next to workspace. You can either search for a part or the item you're inserting, or frequently used right here, it should have part. So you can click that. But I don't need two of these, so I'm going to delete one. So here's this little part that we have. Down here's in the properties tab. I showed you how to enable it up here by pressing this button. We have all these things that'll change the properties of the part. That'll make it go bigger, make it so it can't fall to the ground. So I'm going to start from the top, the appearance. we have brick color, we have cast shadow, color, material, reflectance, and transparency. Brick color, this gives you a preset palette of the colors that are built into Roblox, and they all have a name, their RGB value. 3 values are red, G, green, B, blue. So this is a value in G. It's lime green, so that'll make the part green. Then cast shadow, that's just a shadow. If you deselect that, it won't be there. But if you select it again, it will be there. Then we have material. So if we look very, 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 very closely at this, it has a texture. If we change this to, let's say, granite, it changes that texture. Concrete, cobblestone, or even wood. And then this is color. This is a more advanced way of using RGB than the brick color. So if you set it to like 255, 255 is the max value for an RGB, comma, 100, 100 as the value for green, comma, 0, so 0 value for blue. And if we hit enter, we get an orange color. Because when red and green mix, you can make orange. Alright, so if we set this to like, I'll just say ice, then make this blue. Oh yeah, if you click this little square right next to color, it'll give you this more custom type color picking. It'll give you the hue, the hex code or HTML code, and you can look through here. You can click anywhere in this square and you can move your color to whatever you want. So blue, pink, purple, now purple, red, cyan, green, yellow, red. Oh look, there's orange. I'm gonna keep it out of blue. Actually, let's make it more of a softer color. Kind of like that. If we go to a reflectance, reflectance is how much it reflects. It specifies how shiny the part is. A value of 1 is completely reflective, chrome, while a value of 0 has no reflective. So like if it was a piece of concrete, that's not reflecting. But if it's a piece of chrome, you're going to see reflection in it. So if we jack that up, we aren't able to see a lot right now because there's not much to see. Let's try glass for material. There we go. It's so reflective, it's reflecting the sky. But if we put this back down to 0, it doesn't. So 0.5. Now it's slightly reflecting the sky. This is really cool for like a window type effect. But then there's this thing called transparency. This is how much a part is visible. It's from 0 to 1. Anything in between 1. So like picture as 0 and 100%. Just we scale down to 1. So if we put this transparency value at 0.5, the part is now 50% invisible. So now we can see through it. But if we set it to 1, that's 100% invisible. We can't see it. Then if we put it back to like 0.25 or 4, 5, it's somewhat invisible. It's transparent. That's everything for transparency. Now we have data. This is the data section. Also, keep in mind that properties will change with different types of items. Like, if we select the workspace, the properties aren't the same as a part. Okay, let's carry on. We have some... Alright, the camera accidentally... No, not camera. OBS accidentally cut out for some reason, I don't know why. But okay, now in the data section, we have more properties. We have the name, so the name of the part, if you want to reference it in like a script or something. So we could name this the best part ever, or par ever. Then we have the orientation. So this is the degrees of rotation. So when we turn it, those numbers are going to change. So there we go. There's 40.47 Y rotation. 174.93 on the Z-axis, and 31.79 on the X. That's the degrees of orientation. Then we have the parent. This is the instant that is directly above this instance. So right now the parent is workspace. This is directly above. But if we set to like players, the parent would move to players, and since players isn't workspace, the part isn't there anymore. So let's set the parent back to workspace. Press F to go back to it. And that focuses on the part. Then we have position. We have the X, Y, and Z axis. The X axis, that'll move it along there. Then we have the Y axis, moves there. And then the Z axis, it moves along there. Oops, I pressed a button. Whoops, I accidentally ran it. Alright, so back on track. There's the Z, X, and Y down in the position property. Then we have rotation velocity. This is how much velocity it's going to have on rotating. So is it going to be rotating slow or fast? But those have to be set by a script, or resets. Resets back to 0, 0, 0, 0. Then we have the velocity. This is a force of the part that I don't quite remember if it's gonna... Well, let's see this. How fast the part is traveling in studs or seconds. This property is not recommended to be modified directly unless there is a good reason. Otherwise, try using a body force to move the object. Same for rotation. But wherever you move, like if it's 1000x, it'll try and move to 1000 on the x-axis. But it'll most likely reset. We have the Y and the Z. That's all of the data. Alright, now the behavior of the part. We have anchored, archivable, can collide, collision group ID, locked, massless, and then we don't use these. Alright, so anchored depends whether the part stays exactly where it is. So if we ran it, it would stay where it is and would not move. But if it wasn't anchored and we ran Studio, it would fall to the ground. So we got to keep that anchored. Archivable depends whether when you join the game, whether the game will keep it there or not, which always keep archivable checked. Can collide. if we had another part and this was set to can collide, the parts would hit each other and then stop. But if it wasn't, the other part would just go straight through it. So we want to keep that checked if we're doing something that needs to be collidable. Then we have the collision group ID. That's gonna... The collision group ID is gonna... If you have a collision group, that's gonna depend whether it's... That's gonna be the ID of that group. So for certain collision groups, you can have parts touch each other or not. But we're not going over that right now. Alright, so now we have locked. So, if that's checked, we can't select it in the viewport. So we'd have to go into Explorer, which I showed you how to open it. Same for properties. And you have to select that. But we want to keep that unchecked so we can select it again. Then we have massless, which is pretty much how much mass it has or how big the part is. Massless will just make it so it has no mass. That's everything for behavior. Then for part, these are custom physical properties. If we check that and then press this little arrow, it'll bring down a drop down. This is the density of the part. That'll change if we scale it up. Oh, actually, it didn't. They might just stay at the same spot. But this is the density of the part, how dense it is, the friction, how well it slides across something, or the force that's preventing it from sliding across. We have the elasticity. I have never used that, but I guess how elastic the part is. We have the friction weight, so how much weight is pushing on the friction. So 1 is the 100% of the part is causing the friction. Elasticity weight, 100% of weight put to elasticity. Then we have root priority. I actually don't know what that is. I've never used it, so I'm not going to be able to help you there. But then we have shape. This part is a cube, a block, or a rectangle. But it's registering as a block for the shape. There's 3 selections for that. A ball, block, or cylinder. This is a ball. Technically a sphere. And then we have cylinder. Just as you would guess, it's a cylinder. And then one of the things that are the most important is the size. Let's put that back to block. So we have the x-axis size, so we can change that to, like, let's say 10. And then now it's 10 x-axis studs long. Same for y, we can make that like 5. And then z, let's make that 0.0015. The lowest you can go is 0.05. That's how small, that's the smallest a part could be. That's all the properties for a part. Alright, let's go over a quick review. We have brick color, changes the color of the part. Cast shadow, if it has a shadow or not. Color, so a more advanced way of coloring the part. Material, reflectance, transparency, the name, orientation, parent, position, rotation velocity, anchored, archivable, can collide, collision group ID, locked, massless, custom physical properties, root priority, shape, and then size. Those are all of the properties for a part, or an... Yeah, so let's just go with a part. Those are all the properties for a simple little part. So let's actually delete this best part ever. Now we have a new part, except we aren't going to be needing this. Let's go to Starter GUI. Now for Starter GUI, we're going to need to import a screen GUI, and then, like, let's say a frame. If this frame is in a screen GUI, it'll pop up on your screen, but because it's not going to show up there. So let's put that frame back inside this screen GUI. As you can see down here in the properties, this is a frame. It's not a part like what I was showing. This has different properties, like selection image object, active, anchor point, background color 3, background transparency, border color 3, border mode, border size pixel, layout order, name, parent, position, and rotation. These little bits here are kind of the same. And we have different behaviors. And we have localization. So if it's like a text label, are you English, or are you in the US? You can either have it to auto-localize, or you have a localization table waiting for it already. But let's go up. Right here, this is active. If it's true, this GUI object can fire mouse events and will pass them to any GUI objects laid underneath, while false will do neither. And just a neat little thing, if it's active and you put your mouse on it, you won't be able to scroll your wheel along. But if it is active, it'll fire events. Then we have the anchor point. This is where the part will be anchored. So 0.5, 0.5. Now the anchor point is in the middle of this object. So if we positioned it, that anchor point is going to that position. Then we have background color 3. You need a color 3 to color it, so you need the RGB. You can select a color with the color picker, or you can manually type it in, like so. Then we have background transparency. This does the same thing for the part, just it changes the background. It changes its transparency and visible level. Then we have border color. This is the color of the border, which normally they have a black box around them. Then we have border mode, inset, middle, outline. We just keep it on outline for now. Then we have border size pixel. So that's one singular pixel. So if we move this to, like, let's just say 20 pixels, now the border is 20 pixels wide. Let's put that down to like 2. Then we have layout order. So if there was another frame and we wanted this frame the best, we wanted this frame to be on top of this frame, but they can't because they're at the same height. So if we go down to layout order and we press, if we make it like 1, alright, that was a bit of accidental Nope. I got that wrong. Whoopsie. That's what Z index does. That was an accident. Well, let's carry on from that. We learn from our mistakes. We have the name. Its name is the best. We have the parent, which, just like the part's parent is to the workspace. But this frame's parent is in the screen GUI. Oh, whoops. I just set its parent to nil. Whoops-a-doodle. Let's put our best frame back. There. So don't click the X button. It'll be bad. Press right click or click onto screen GUI again to set the parent back to that. Then we have position, where this frame is going to be positioned all over your screen. So if we look down here, it's moving along. Now these are a little more different from position. There's no Z, and there's actually two values that are with Y and X. The second value right here, that's 0, that's actually a pixel value. So that would be, it's 0 pixels on the screen, so it's not going to be moving in any pixels. And then the first one is actually scale. Excuse me. If we were at 0.5 on the X, it would move it to the halfway on the X-axis on the screen. So if we scaled the window anyway, it would always stay in the half position on the X-axis. But then if we just left that at like 0, then we put it at like, let's just say 850, it's gonna stay there. Which, since I have an emulator on right now, it won't do anything right now. Deselect that. See? Now it moves. It moves off the screen because it's staying on that spot on the pixels. So I have it set to 16 by 900. So it's going to stay at the 850th spot on X-axis for pixels. And then it's the same thing for Y, just up and down. It's at 0.5 on the Y-axis for scale. It's going to put the anchor point at the 0.5 spot. The anchor point will always be where the position is. And then, same thing for the scale. As the screen moves, it'll stay at the half point. And the same for offset, that's using pixels. Then rotation, this doesn't have any XYZ, it's just one single number because it's just going to show flat on your screen. There's not crazy rotation. So if we put it in for 45, it'll turn the GUI object 45 degrees. And then let's just put this 0. Selectable, that just makes it so it's selectable, but we don't ever use that. That'll probably fire a mouse button one-click function. But then we have size down here. Same thing for position. We have scale, pixels, scale, and then pixels. It's at 117 for pixels right now in the x-axis, but let's make it half the screen on the x-axis. And let's delete the 117 and put a point as 0. And let's just put the anchor point to 0.5, 0.5. And let's set the position to 5, x, 0.5, 0. Now it's in the complete middle of the screen. Now we're gonna the x is half of the screen. We're gonna do the same for the y. we're going to do 0.5, 0, get rid of the pixels offset, and now it's covering half of the screen. And that's how sizing works. This actually uses a UDIM2 to a UDIM2 value to describe its positioning. Then we have size constraints. This is like, are we relative XX, relative II, XY. It's also changed different ways of scaling, but leave that at relative XY. Then we have these custom styles built into Roblox. We have chat blue, chat green, red, custom, so if we want to make it to whatever we desire. We have drop shadow, that darkens it and puts it in a bit. Roblox round, that adds a round edge to it. Then we have square, which that darkens it again, but it's square, it doesn't have any round to it. Well, let's leave this at custom. No, there's this property called visible. That's decides whether it's visible. I'd keep that check unless you don't want people to see that. Then we have Z index. This is actually the positioning of an item. So this frame, this is behind the best frame. If we set this Z index to 2, it'll be on top. But then if we set this to 2, since this is newer, it should be on top. But if we set this to like 69, this won't be able, this can be anything as long as it's, if you want it to be under, it has to be anything below 69. Like if we put it 70, it'll be on top. Let's just start from brand new frames. Right in the middle, there we go. Alright, now we have behavior. Keep archivable selected so it doesn't delete out of the game. We don't need to go over anything else in here. And behavior. And localization. And then that's everything for a frame properties and a part properties. There will be a whole lot more to be learned, like for different things. It's gonna have different properties. Like, let's just quickly add in something to server script service. A script. And if you look at the properties, you have class name, current editor, which that's for team create. Then we have name. Let's name this to money. And this is a simple print statement. We'll learn about those soon. Let's just print money. When the games run, it'll print money out here. It'll say money, not print it. We have parent, selects which object is directly above it. Then we have behavior, disabled, which disabled, that's if the script, if you want it to be working or not. If it's disabled, it won't run the code that's inside the script. But if it isn't checked, it'll run this print statement. And alright, I hope this taught you something, and if you have any questions, ask it down in the comments down below, or go to my Discord server and ask it in Roblox help if you need any information about that. I hope you enjoyed watching this. Thank you very much, and have a good day.